I am regarded as a prodigy in the eyes of all. I advanced 3 grades in elementary school and garnered a plethora of competition medals in high school, ultimately being granted direct admission to Peking University at the tender age of 16. Everything changed when a plainly dressed middle-aged woman approached me, claiming that I was an imposter, a false daughter. I once worked for the Zhai family, and naturally, I had the opportunity to switch you out. Give me 1 million, or I shall expose you, she declared. I furrowed my brows and anxiously inquired about the whereabouts of the true daughter. Upon hearing that she had been raised in the countryside and was an illiterate who had not even completed 9 years of compulsory education, I let out a sigh of relief. Once I ascertain that she poses no threat, I shall transfer the money to you, I assured her. I had never contemplated the possibility of being a false daughter. Although my parents were both strikingly handsome, I had always been of average appearance, leading many to lament that I did not inherit their good looks. Yet, no one ever doubted my lineage, for I had inherited my father's intelligence, exhibiting remarkable academic talent, consistently ranking first in my class, a veritable genius in the eyes of others. When that simply dressed middle-aged woman confronted me, claiming I was her daughter, I nearly assumed it was some new form of abduction. It was only when she revealed the birthmark I bore and showed me a photograph of my brother, who bore a striking resemblance to me, that I hesitated to contact the authorities. Before I could even inquire how she knew the truth, she abruptly handed me a bill. Your brother is 13, and as he enters middle school, he requires a school selection fee. As the eldest daughter of the Zhai family, this amount is merely pocket change for you. Do not underestimate it. That is your biological brother, and once you marry, you will need him to support you. Her audacious demeanor left me feeling somewhat disoriented. Was it possible that I was now the one seeking money from her? Otherwise, how could she be so brazen, stating, setting aside the credibility of your claims, why don't you tell me how you were switched at the hospital? At the mention of this, she immediately began to speak volubly. Observing her impassioned recounting, I surreptitiously activated the recording function on my phone. After half an hour, I finally unraveled the entire story. Initially, Li Tsuehua had come to the Zhai household as a nanny and, upon noticing my mother's preoccupation with music and dance, neglecting household chores while my father indulged her, she grew envious. In a fit of jealousy, she even dared to don my mother's jewelry and garments, and upon being discovered, was promptly ejected from the Zhai residence, harboring resentment thereafter. During that period, my mother was often quarreling with my father in search of creative inspiration, and seeing this, Li Tsuehua bribed other nannies to lure my mother to her own remote village. Consequently, my mother unexpectedly went into premature labor and had to give birth in a hospital lacking adequate facilities. Upon learning this, Li Tsuehua stealthily infiltrated the hospital and switched me, who was born just a day early, with the biological daughter of the Zhai family. At that time, she envisioned that once I grew up, I would inherit the Su family's fortune, not only to support her future son but also to entrust the company to him once I married. Li Tsuehua's incessant focus on her son left me speechless, rolling my eyes in disbelief. The overwhelming favoritism towards males was almost suffocating, and I could hardly fathom how such a person could be my biological mother. Yet, the reality was undeniable. I furrowed my brows slightly, interrupting Li Tsuehua's 8th iteration of her insistence that I should bequeath my inheritance to her son, and instead posed a question of greater concern to me. Where is the biological daughter of the Zhai family? If she is exposed, we shall both be in dire straits. Li Tsuehua waved her hand dismissively. Rest assured, I keep her under my watchful eye, not allowing her to complete even her middle school education, fearing that this foolish girl might comprehend too much and uncover the truth. What purpose does it serve for a girl to read so many books? Ultimately, she will belong to another family. She proudly proclaimed her misdeeds, sending a chill down my spine. Had I not been replaced, it would undoubtedly have been me who dropped out of school. Reflecting on my fervor for learning, the accolades showered upon me, and the guaranteed admission to Peking University. All of these aspirations would dissolve into mere illusions. I would live a life of aimlessness, comparing the number of children I have with others, and whether I can bear more sons. Upon contemplating this, I could not help but shudder. I wished to meet Wang Zhaodi. Upon hearing this, Li Tsuehua immediately became alert. What do you intend to do? What if we expose ourselves? I smiled faintly. What are you worried about? The one most fearful of her return is I. I do not believe you can keep her under control. To prevent any unforeseen circumstances, I must ascertain that she poses no threat before I transfer that 1 million to you. Li Tsuehua remained silent for a moment, hesitating before acquiescing. She further threatened me. Do not forget that without me, you would never experience such a lavish lifestyle. If you dare to deceive me, I shall reveal the truth to the Zhai family, claiming it was a case of mistaken identity. They would likely offer me a token of gratitude. It was truly laughable in its foolishness. I regarded her coldly, for I was the sole child of the Zhai family. I must become a worthy heir. Thus I have received the finest education from a young age, attending the most prestigious international schools. They must realize that their biological daughter cannot even attend school. I fear this revelation might incite me to tear Li Tsuehua apart on the spot. 02 The rural village described by Li Tsuehua is a dilapidated and backward place. As I disembarked from the tractor, I was already beset by dizziness. But what awaited me in her courtyard was an even greater calamity. Upon entering, I was met with the foul stench of chicken droppings. And the ground of the house was sticky with an unknown substance, making it nearly impossible for someone with my aversion to dirt to set foot there. What took my breath away further was the sight of individuals still clad in patched clothing. A petite girl, reminiscent of my mother, was sprawled on the ground, bearing the weight of a tall and robust boy, gasping as she crawled. Struggling under the strain, she lost her balance and fell. Instantly, the boy began to wail, kicking her in the stomach in a fit of rage. "You pig-headed fool! How dare you let me fall? I will tell my parents to have you punished." Likuiwa, upon witnessing this, rushed over and tenderly embraced the boy while viciously kicking the girl. "You worthless scoundrel! You can't even take care of your brother. You've made my precious grandson fall. You shall be punished with 2 days of starvation. Now go and prepare dinner." The girl curled up, clutching her abdomen in silence, as if she were already accustomed to such beatings. When she caught sight of me, a flicker of envy crossed her eyes. I could bear it no longer. "Enough. I did not come here to witness your brutality. I am here for an inspection. Sister, you should rest now and apply some medicine." Li Tsuehua's face twisted in displeasure. Yet sensing the severity of my expression, she refrained from objecting, only muttering under her breath, "What a bold face, a mere wretched girl. What is there to treat?" How could she so shamelessly confront her own sins? In that fleeting moment of eye contact with the girl, I felt an overwhelming sense of shame. Li Tsuehua perceived no wrongdoing in her actions. Instead, the abuse of the genuine heiress bestowed upon her a sense of superiority. As the girl brushed past me, I impulsively tugged at her hair, causing her to regard me warily. I pressed my lips together and raised my hand, holding a fragment of leaves aloft. "You have something dirty in your hair." She hesitated for a moment and quietly murmured her thanks. As she departed, she inadvertently bumped into me, causing me to sway slightly. Just as I was about to inquire if she needed anything, I noticed her forming words with her lips. My outstretched hand slowly retracted. I continued my tour of the other rooms and encountered Wang Fu, soundly asleep, his corpulent figure a sight to behold. At last, I understood why the Wang family was so brazen in their demands. They could only rely on thievery to amass wealth. My arrival stirred Wang Fu from his slumber, and I could see the glint of greed in his eyes upon noticing me. "You must be the family's unfortunate burden, huh? What a fortunate family they are. Raising you so beautifully, surely your bride price will fetch a handsome sum. This large golden bracelet must be worth quite a bit. Let us consider this our introductory gift." Before I could refuse, he rudely seized my wrist and yanked. Li Tsuehua, instead of intervening, insisted that I part with the necklace around my neck. "Without my support, you would never have enjoyed a life of luxury. This token should be a gesture of gratitude. Now that you've met me, when will you transfer the $1,000,000? Your brother is in urgent need of funds for school. Such are my biological parents, greedy and cruel, devoid of any concern for their daughter, consumed only by their lust for wealth. To be born into such a family is a tragedy and a disgrace." Fearing they might turn their wrath upon me as well, I fell silent for a moment before reluctantly handing over the items. However, whether it was voluntary is another matter entirely. Since it was confirmed that Zhao Di would not return, I promised to deliver the money upon my return, but 1,000,000 is no trifling sum. I would need 2 days to prepare. That very night, I promptly chose to report to the authorities. 03 The act of alerting the police quickly unsettled my parents. Observing the bewildered expressions on their faces, I could no longer contain the guilt swelling within me and collapsed to my knees. "I am sorry. It is my biological mother who has harmed your child. I have already reported this and submitted our conversation as evidence. Whatever retaliation you seek, I shall accept." I laid bare the truth in its entirety. I had always believed that the Zhai family placed immense value on their children, firmly believing that quality surpasses quantity, coupled with genuine love. In their middle age, they had only me as their child, and I genuinely grew up under their affection. I once asked them if they would still love me if I were neither beautiful nor intelligent. My mother, without a word, poked my forehead and replied, "You are my child, born after 10 months of pregnancy. Even if you were lacking in every way, your father and I have toiled for years. Do you think we would fail to provide for you? As long as you are safe, even being a parasite is acceptable." Yet their child had never known safety. If my mother were to discover that her true child had been swapped away, enduring torment year after year, it would only be natural for her to wish me dead. This was my debt to the Zhai family. I knelt in silence, awaiting my own judgment. As expected, my mother, seemingly on the brink of collapse, struck me across the face with a resounding slap. The force was so great that I saw stars and fell to the ground. So this is what it feels like to be beaten. Humiliation, pain, and shame enveloped me. I tightly shut my eyes, gradually straightened myself, and knelt once more, bracing for the next wave of fury. To my surprise, my mother did not strike again. Instead, she pulled me into her embrace. Choking back tears, she said, "I know this is not your fault. I do not wish to hit you, but I cannot help myself. If only this were a nightmare. If only it were all false." I dared not respond, merely greedily savoring what I understood to be her last embrace. My father silently lit one cigarette after another, and by the time he reached the end of the box, he sighed heavily. "Given the circumstances, Zhai Yao, I must warn you. I will not let that Wang family off the hook. I will hire the best lawyer to ensure they serve their full sentence, should you dare to interfere. Do not blame me for disregarding our years of affection. As for your sister, I do not want her to suffer any more. You know what must be done. Yao Yao, do not resent me. I only wish to do right by my daughter." His words cut like a knife, shredding the final remnants of my dignity, and I hastily withdrew from my mother's embrace. From my pocket, I retrieved a USB drive I had prepared in advance. This contains the account of the crimes as narrated by Li Tsuehua. I have submitted a copy to the police station. The USB holds the original, which you may utilize as evidence in the lawsuit. Additionally, I expedited the paternity test for your sister, which will be ready by tomorrow, so you need not worry. She bears a striking resemblance to our mother, and there should be no issues. Likewise, I closely resemble Li Tsuehua. Our round faces and flat noses, nearly identical in every regard. Contemplating this filled me with an overwhelming sense of sorrow. No matter how intelligent I might be, it is hard to find peace when confronted with the knowledge that I am the source of another family's ruin. Once my sister returns, I plan to move out. After all, there are only 6 months until the start of my studies at Peking University. I still have a substantial amount of my competition winnings, enough to sustain me until school begins. As for any shares, once my sister's household registration is finalized, I will prepare a transfer document. Everything that belongs to her will be returned. Since Zhai's father has yet to change Wang Zhaodi's name, I assume they would prefer not to hear that humiliating name repeated. Following Li Tsuehua's account, it is reasonable to refer to her as my sister, given that I am merely a day older than the true heiress. As for the shares and assets, they never belonged to me in the first place. Upon expressing this, my father's expression shifted dramatically, as if he had just noticed I was still kneeling on the ground. He hurriedly helped me up, exclaiming, "You child, the ground is so cold. Your mother should have helped you up. I know you are a good child. You cannot be blamed for this. After all, you were just a child then. You need not move out. This will always be your home. You will help your sister atone for her sins." Hearing my father's words, I feigned a look of gratitude while internally scoffing. Indeed, life is not a novel. Faced with the usurpation of the nest by impostors, which parent would willingly close their eyes and favor another's child? I resort to a strategy of retreat in hopes of garnering a modicum of affection. Moreover, Father Zhai is a businessman, reluctant to expend resources on me. This is a world governed by interests. 04 My father's methods are swift and decisive. He even managed to retrieve surveillance footage from 2 decades prior and, by a fortunate turn of events, located the nurse who had been bribed by Li Tsuehua. After a series of threats, she agreed to testify in court. However, it was revealed that many children had gone missing from the Wang family's village. With Li Tsuehua acting as an intermediary, the Wang family was swiftly apprehended and imprisoned for human trafficking and abuse. On the day of the trial, the Wang couple unleashed a torrent of vitriol, hurling venomous insults at me. Had I known that you, wretched creature, would turn out to be such an ungrateful wretch, I should have drowned you at birth. Wang Zhaodi, do you think you can escape our grasp? Sending your parents to prison will ultimately bring down divine retribution. Their expressions were grotesquely twisted. I glanced anxiously at Jai Gui, who had remained silent throughout the proceedings. My father had already relocated her household registration and changed her name. I had been busy preparing the largest and finest bedroom for her. After Jai Gui learned the truth, I treaded carefully around her, prioritizing her needs above all else. No. It was not merely about prioritization. Everything should rightfully belong to her. I was but a deceiver who had stolen another's happiness. Each encounter with Jai Gui left me feeling profoundly guilty. She must despise me immensely. If my own life were stolen from me, I would likely harbor a hatred so intense that I would wish to consume the flesh and blood of the thief, torturing her to the brink of despair. I had steeled myself for her disdain, yet she remained remarkably aloof, treating me with warmth and never uttering a harsh word. Until now, when she suddenly erupted, producing a small knife from seemingly nowhere and plunging it directly into the midsection of the two perpetrators. The incident unfolded so swiftly that the police were unable to restrain her in time, allowing her to strike thrice. Ha ha ha, Sister Mingzhu, I have avenged you. Li Cuihua. You heartless wretch who sold women as brides to your dim-witted nephew. These 3 strikes are the interest I have claimed on their behalf. When you emerge, who knows who will truly escape unscathed? Do not forget, your foolish son is still out there. At that moment, my mother had embraced her, and the police were forcibly removing her, but Li Cuihua had gone mad. You little wretch, what do you intend to do to my son? He is but a child. Knowing nothing, Wang Zhaodi, I will not let you escape, even in death. Behind her, Li Cuihua's furious shrieks echoed throughout the courtroom, yet beside me, Jai Gui was laughing heartily. In that moment, perhaps this was her truest form. 05 Father donated a building for experimental purposes, enrolling Jai Gui in my high school. Since she had not completed middle school, Father instructed me to tutor her at home. To my surprise, after the Wang family was imprisoned, Jai Gui seemed to have adopted a lackadaisical attitude, perhaps dazzled by newfound wealth. I urged her to study, yet she would claim to have a stomach ache, retreating to the bathroom to play on her phone for 2 hours, or insist on feeling dizzy, shutting herself into sleep. No matter how I called to her, she appeared deaf to my pleas, even retorting impatiently, why should I work so hard? I am the sole heir. The family fortune will be mine. Mind your own business, and just turn a blind eye. I remained silent, my gaze fixed upon her, my eyes brimming with unshed tears, determined not to relent until her attitude changed. Eventually, she could no longer withstand my scrutiny and raised her hands in surrender. Fine, I'll study. I'll study, all right? Can a person go to the bathroom in peace without being followed? Don't you realize that's when one is most vulnerable, and it's quite foul? Seeing her compliance, I finally smiled and casually remarked, even if the company is yours in the future, if you cannot comprehend profit margins, you may find yourself bankrupt without even knowing it. She scoffed, rolling her eyes in disdain. Please, can't I just hire someone? I don't need knowledge. Money is enough. I remained silent for a long moment, ultimately picking up a mathematics textbook and placing it before her. Wealth does not endure, but the skills you acquire are yours to keep. Just like me, even while living in a facade, I still possess something to believe in. I do not expect you to achieve first place, but at least obtain a university diploma. Even if you go abroad, you must understand English. Are you not afraid of being at the mercy of others for not understanding it? Jai Gui did not counter my argument. She picked up the book, her expression somewhat displeased. Truthfully, I haven't been studying well for a long time. Li Cuihua forced me into labor before dawn, never allowing me to eat my fill. Back then, all I could think about was how to fill my stomach. I had no time for studies. I paused in my grading of math papers, my tone sincere as I replied, so, how does that relate to your inability to solve a basic problem after 10 attempts? It is a matter of sisterhood. Consequently, I spent the entire summer in a state of collapse and rage. Previously, I had often heard classmates mention that tutoring younger siblings required a heart medicine for instant relief, but at that time, I found it hard to empathize. Now, I humbly sought that remedy. 06 After a month of diligent tutoring, Jai Gui made remarkable progress, managing to keep pace with the school's curriculum. Yet, Father remained apprehensive, insisting I return to school under the pretext of caring for my sister. After all, you will be helping Xiao Gui in the company after graduation. Fostering familial bonds is more important. I truly could not comprehend how a high school senior could possibly care for a first-year transfer student. Should I crouch beneath her desk during class? Yet, I complied and returned to school. My classmates were all abuzz with excitement, believing I would be advancing to university studies early. I explained that I wished to experience high school life once more. They were all thrilled, eagerly bringing me problems to solve. Genius, take a look at this question. I've been pondering it for 2 days and have only found 2 solutions. Xiao Yao Yao, given our relationship, you'll definitely look at mine first, right? Their wide, sparkling eyes looked at me expectantly. I found myself surrounded, confronted with increasingly challenging problems, and I felt overwhelmed. Nevertheless, I diligently provided answers. I was in an elite class, surrounded by peers who would ultimately be admitted to top universities. I could not afford to overlook these potential connections. After this episode, I found that I had little time to check on Jai Gui for several days. I could only inquire about her well-being after school. To my dismay, I discovered she had changed clothes. I expressed my concern, anticipating she would accuse me of negligence. To my surprise, she remained silent. That evening, even when faced with my father's inquiries, she responded vaguely. I immediately sensed her unusual behavior. The next day, I intentionally skipped a class to visit her classroom. I found her standing next to a trash bin, with her desk piled high with various refuse, fruit peels, snack wrappers, and the like. Nearby boys were tossing trash at her head, while the teacher at the podium turned a blind eye, continuing to lecture without regard for the scene unfolding below. No wonder Jai Gui had been so quiet lately. She was being ostracized. Witnessing this scene ignited a surge of anger within me. I kicked open the classroom door, startling the teacher, who barked at me. Which class are you from? Why aren't you in class, disrupting the discipline of another? I will have to report you. I remained silent, making my way to the back of the classroom to pull Jai Gui away. Suppressing my fury, I demanded, "At home, you're so bold, pointing fingers at me. But here at school, you can't even muster a word? Have our family ties become meaningless? Why do you endure this bullying without speaking up?" As I scanned the trash strewn across the desk, I noticed it was also defaced with cruel messages. Brain dead, transfer student, get out. Daughter of a human trafficker. This is your designated seat. Stinky country bumpkin. Extracting a sheet of paper, I crumpled the oily trash and strode towards the boys who were still snickering. With a swift kick, I overturned their stools, and then, with an impassive expression, I hurled the refuse at their faces. "Let us see you laugh now," I challenged. "If this happens again, believe me, I won't hesitate to stuff it down your throats." Infuriated, they jumped to their feet, eager to retaliate. But I executed a shoulder throw, sending one crashing to the ground. Meanwhile, the teacher at the podium had recognized me, his face flushed with anger. "Stop it. Enough," he bellowed. "Jai Yao, don't think you can act with impunity just because you have a guaranteed spot for further studies. I will report you to the principal. A person with such a vile character does not deserve such an opportunity." Jai Gui's pupils quivered slightly as she anxiously grasped my arm, fearful that this commotion would jeopardize my prospects. I scoffed derisively, unwavering in my resolve. What a coincidence. I also intend to speak with the principal to inquire whether a teacher's negligence in addressing bullying constitutes dereliction of duty. If his answer is unsatisfactory, I shall escalate the matter to the Education Bureau. As a student with a guaranteed spot, I should carry some weight. The teacher's complexion drained of color instantly. Ultimately, the principal summoned our parents. The boys, emboldened by their connections, appeared utterly unperturbed. It was then that I learned of a boy named Guichen, whose company happened to be my family's largest client, explaining their brazen demeanor. If matters escalated, my family's financial chain could easily be severed. My father, too, grasped this reality. His face turned an ashen hue as he gazed at the grinning bullies across from us. Gritting his teeth, he pressed my head down, urging me to apologize. My mother, in turn, insisted that Jai Gui admit her fault. That day, I felt a sense of powerlessness I had never experienced before. The humiliation enveloped both Jai Gui and me. In that moment, I came to a profound realization. External accolades are utterly unreliable. Not everyone can forsake everything to support another. Parental honor cannot shield a youth's pride. Only through experience does one gain indelible insights. I was not the only one to comprehend this. My parents' capitulation that day shattered the last vestiges of dependence Jai Gui harbored. Upon leaving the school, Jai Gui remained silent until 2 magpies flew overhead, at which point she suddenly spoke. "Sister, do people lose their sense of home as they grow up? It seems not every parent loves their child." Back at the Li family, Sister Mingzhu said that escaping the mountains would bring freedom. Yet now, I feel as if I have merely transitioned from one cage to a more refined one. I have never truly experienced freedom. Being human pales in comparison to being a bird, soaring freely. I thought having biological parents would ensure my peace of mind, But I never anticipated that in the Zhai household, interests reign supreme. Though I am showered with affection, if I were not sufficiently exceptional, my father would likely have already considered finding another heir. It is my abilities that compel him to invest wholeheartedly in my development. The smooth sailing I experienced blinded me, leading to a misperception of my own capabilities. Following the incident, I ceased attending school and began interning at the family business, recognizing that enhancing my skills was vital. However, to grow rapidly, I needed to undergo trials in the real world. Starting from the grassroots level would allow me to grasp the company's dynamics swiftly. Otherwise, when we come of age, my father will undoubtedly consider arranging a marriage for one of us, and I do not believe I would be the fortunate one. At the company, there was an abundance of knowledge to absorb, and my colleagues were graduates from prestigious universities, each boasting impressive resumes and lofty ambitions. Yet, the company was rife with antiquated rules that stifled their creativity. I observed that 7 or 8 individuals were contemplating leaving to start their own ventures. At that time, short videos were just beginning to gain traction, and the internet was on the rise. I sensed an opportunity and was tempted to take a gamble. Are you all still in need of an investor for your startup? I interjected with a smile as they discussed their plans to resign. I had concealed my identity within the company, so they assumed I was merely a first-year intern, and thus, they harbored little wariness towards me. They aspired to create a live streaming platform, and after secretly reviewing their initial ideas, I perceived its explosive potential. Determined to take the initiative, I proposed, of course, funding is essential, but who would dare shoulder the risk? As they lamented their situation, I slowly raised my hands. 1 million. Would that suffice for your initial costs? Upon Zhai Gui's return, I had suggested transferring my assets to her, only to be met with refusal. With a haughty expression, she declared, I would never accept someone else's used items, Dad. I am your biological daughter. Surely, it is not unreasonable to ask for double the shares. She did not want outsiders to perceive that my father favored the adopted over his own. Her response deeply moved me, compelling me to express my gratitude. The next day, I purchased a complete set of study materials and mock exams for her. Zhai Gui treated me with genuine sincerity, and I resolved to do everything in my power to help her improve her grades. Upon learning of my intentions, she was so touched that she wept with joy, which only made me feel more embarrassed. I had no choice but to intensify her training regimen, devising a targeted practice plan for her mistakes overnight. This diligence enabled her to reach the admission standards for her desired school within 2 months. Now, thanks to her, I had the capital to start my own business. And when I earned my first profit, I sought her out to share half of it with her. At that moment, Zhai Gui was at the martial arts studio, working on a punching bag. Ever since the bullying incident, she had witnessed my skills and begged her mother to withdraw her from dance classes to join martial arts instead. However, her mother hesitated and ultimately refused. I understood her concerns. Once we came of age, my father would likely choose one of us for a marriage alliance. Although I was not his biological child, my father had determined that Zhai Gui did not possess remarkable academic talent. I, too, was rather unremarkable in appearance. Even with effort in grooming, it was insufficient. Conversely, Zhai Gui had inherited her parents' striking looks, and her mother wished to cultivate her into a refined and cultured young lady, aiming to secure her a match with a wealthy heir. I intervened with a vague remark, Sister, being attractive is an asset. Learning diverse skills can protect you. Besides, after seeing too many templates, one might grow weary. It's better to learn something unique that keeps things fresh. Thus, Zhai Gui's wishes were fulfilled. Unexpectedly, she proved to be exceedingly talented in martial arts, earning praise from her coach multiple times, and she herself grew to love the practice. At that moment, she casually wiped the beads of sweat from her brow and remarked, I haven't done anything special. Why are you sharing profits with me? You safeguarded your shares. This is your rightful reward. Moreover, I have already allocated 5 of the shares to you. In the future, any profits will be shared, while you will bear the risk of losses. Zhai Gui ceased to refuse, albeit with a hint of hesitation. She asked, What do you think about me attending police academy? Oh well, the college entrance examination is still far off. Why worry? I contemplated her for a moment. A police academy? If there were no issues with the political review, it might not be a bad idea. In my second year of college, my father decided to host a coming-of-age banquet for us. However, he invited various business magnates with whom he had dealings, hoping to use the occasion to promote us. By this time, my company had already gained substantial traction. From merely selling goods, we had expanded to include various shops, forming a complete online sales platform. Recently, I was also learning about live stream marketing, contemplating investing in a new department to develop that sector further. For me, the banquet represented merely an opportunity to expand my network. Only Zhai Gui maintained an unyielding demeanor throughout the event. Over the years, I had not ceased my tutoring efforts for her, yet alas, she still lacked certain innate abilities. Based on her mock examination results, she could at most achieve a 211 score, which was far from sufficient. My anxiety reached a peak when I witnessed my father presenting my sister to a bald, 40-year-old businessman. I immediately rejected the overtures of a partner who approached me for small talk, my brows furrowing deeply as I strode towards Zhai Gui. However, a boy interjected before I could reach her. It was Guo Chen, the very boy who had bullied Zhai Gui in the past. He wrapped his arms around her possessively, declaring with arrogance, "Zhai Gui is now my woman. You are not allowed to interfere." Good heavens! The air was thick with the essence of a domineering CEO. In the past 2 years, the Guo family has swiftly adapted to trends, establishing itself as a leader in the industry. Guo Chen's arrogance has further escalated. I stood, astonished, as I observed this scene, expecting my father to display anger. To my disbelief, he was instead beaming with delight, respectfully accommodating Guo Chen's whims. Of course, it is a blessing for Miss Zhai to catch young Master Guo's attention. My father even patted my sister's arm, advising her to heed Guo Chen's words, suggesting that if she was in need of funds, she should speak with him. What a picture of paternal affection and filial piety it was. I found it difficult to bear witness to this tableau. Seeing that Zhai Gui was no longer in peril, I forced a smile and adeptly mingled with the guests present. After a series of toasts, I sought out Zhai Gui, finding her despondently seated by the pool's edge, just as I was about to approach her. Guo Chen abruptly emerged from the water, droplets splashing onto Zhai Gui, causing her to frown before she delivered a sharp slap across his face. My heart raced, and I hurried forward, fearing for Zhai Gui's safety. To my astonishment, he knelt without hesitation, prostrating himself at her feet, ingratiatingly exclaiming, "You're amazing, master. May I have another pat, please?" My advance halted instantly. "No, sister. What have you turned him into?" I gazed at Zhai Gui in disbelief, as if I were encountering her for the first time. I remained in this daze until Guo Chen departed. "Zhai Gui, I never knew you possessed such capabilities. I must say, you have truly impressed me," I teased as I offered her a glass of wine. Zhai Gui did not accept it, instead regarding me with a placid expression. "This is merely what he owes me. It is not enough. It is just a fraction of the interest I have accrued." I detest Guo Chen, wishing I could consume his flesh and drink his blood. My heart momentarily halted at her words. Yet I did not miss the flicker of hatred in her eyes. The Guo family. I unconsciously rubbed the rim of my glass, as the mere mention of their name was grating to my ears. "I truly envy you. You have already attained your freedom." Freedom? I chuckled softly. Behind every success lies a bloody price. Since my university days, I have seldom slept more than 6 hours a night. While others frolicked and rested, I scurried between the company and school, even attending financial and legal lectures beyond my required courses. The higher one ascends, the more one learns. To aspire to be an unshackled fool, one must be exceptionally skilled. If you truly seek freedom, do not rely on others. Sometimes, inheritance is indeed a wondrous thing. Although Zhai Gui did not inherit her parents' high intelligence, she nonetheless achieved success in her chosen field. She had secretly passed the entrance exam for the Air Force. The fledgling of yesteryear had indeed grown wings to soar across the skies. My father was infuriated. As the college entrance examination approached, he contacted several of his former classmates to better package my sister, inquiring about which majors would provide her with a greater chance of success and prestige. Initially, he had hoped she would enter an art program. However, Zhai Gui possessed not an ounce of artistic talent, save for her strength. He wished for her to study philosophy or sociology, majors that sound appealing yet lack practicality. Little did he know, she was quietly plotting significant endeavors behind everyone's back. My father brandished a stick, declaring he would administer familial discipline to my sister, while my mother wept, trying to restrain him. I stepped protectively in front of Zhai Gui, stating firmly, "The Zhai family has never enforced such oppressive rules. Father, if you desire success, you must not sacrifice family. Success attained through kneeling is merely begging." Seeing me defend Zhai Gui momentarily restored some of his reason. After all, my career had been flourishing over the years, while the Zhai family continuously declined. And he still hoped I could turn the tide. My father, in a fit of anger, tossed aside the stick, trembling as he lamented, "If she goes to military school, What will young Master Gui do? Our family is already at a disadvantage. Being apart will only make maintaining our relationship more difficult. Such a promising match, all ruined by her stubbornness. When she returns from the army, which family would want such a daughter-in-law? I am doing this for her sake. If there is a shortcut, why suffer the hard way? Ultimately, he still wished to cling to the grand tree of the Gui family. Unfortunately, some trees appear majestic, yet are hollowed out by pests, teetering on the brink of collapse. I narrowed my eyes, contemplating whether to reveal my collection of evidence against the Gui family when Zhai Gui suddenly pushed past me. In the end, you still wish to cling to the powerful. But alas, your calculations are flawed. Gui Chen will soon find himself imprisoned, and the Gui family will suffer devastating blows. A surge of unease welled within me, and I hurriedly inquired, "What do you mean by that? What have you done?" She flashed me a sweet smile, reassuring me, "Do not worry, sister. I am not one to overstep my bounds. I merely set a trap, leading Gui Chen to believe he had assaulted me, enticing him to confess his misdeeds over the years. I recorded everything and sent it to the media. This year, only 3 female pilots were admitted citywide. If my alleged victimization becomes public, the Gui family will be the target of widespread condemnation." Upon hearing this, an eerie silence enveloped the room. Noticing my continued silence, Zhai Gui grew anxious. "Sister, I truly am unharmed." I intoxicated Gui Chen. In his stupor, he believed my words. My heart ached as I gently stroked her hair. Yet, within a minute, I could no longer contain myself and delivered a sharp slap. "Are you foolish? You wish to be a pilot and engage in such antics. Once your information is exposed, your aspirations of becoming a pilot may vanish. Do you understand? And here you are, reveling in it. Such a perilous plan. What if something goes awry? Are you expecting me to descend to the underworld to bargain for your life? Since you expressed your hatred for the Gui family, I have been laying the groundwork. Within a month, the Gui family will surely fall." Zhai Gui was momentarily taken aback by my words, her eyes welling with grievance. "But sister, you never informed me. You vanish without a trace daily. How was I to know your plans? Regardless, the matter is resolved, so do not be upset." She approached me, shaking my arm and playfully pouting. Our parents, having overheard, stood in shock, never anticipating that the 2 daughters they saw daily had orchestrated such a grand scheme. My father wiped the sweat from his brow, finally uttering, "Truly, no one can dispute that these are my Zhai family's children, each one remarkable." Instantly, he earned 2 eye rolls in response. To preempt any retaliation from the Gui family, I invested further funds to maximize the video's exposure. As the public condemned Gui Chen, I anonymously reported the evidence of tax evasion I had gathered against the Gui family's company to the tax authorities. As everything seemed poised to settle, I once again roused my father from his slumber in the middle of the night, exasperatedly stating, "Did you not desire to become the richest person in Jiang City? Such a prime acquisition opportunity, and you waste time sleeping. Truly, what a lack of ambition. Why sleep more in life when one will surely sleep forever in death? Get up, let us work together." My father gazed at me with bleary eyes, then looked down at my mother, who was sound asleep. After a prolonged pause, he finally resolved to resign, declaring, "I am old. I can no longer endure. Tomorrow I will convene a shareholder meeting. You may take over as chairman. As long as we do not go bankrupt, do as you please." Not even the ascension of Qianlong was as swift as this. Under my astonished gaze, my father flopped back onto the bed, his demeanor reminiscent of Zhai Gui's. Anyone who claims they do not resemble one another is surely mistaken. Meanwhile, on Zhai Gui's end, some enthusiastic netizens uncovered her true identity from the video, and the school soon learned of the situation. I was filled with dread, contemplating whether I should seek a repeat year at school. Much to my surprise, the school not only refrained from expelling her, but also celebrated her on their official website, proclaiming her to be unafraid of authority and in pursuit of truth, a model for the people, with the school pledging its full support. This turned out to be a boon for Zhai Gui, as the video played incessantly on television throughout the day, driving our parents to distraction. They constantly urged me to take her to the company for learning opportunities, as there were still 2 months until school resumed, and idleness at home was unacceptable. Encourage her to diligently study the management of the company, alleviating your burdens, lest in the future she questions our family's perceived favoritism. This time, her tears have transformed her into Zhai Gui. She bounded to her parents' side, fervently inquiring whether love is ephemeral. As I signed the documents, I helplessly shook my head at the scene. Approaching the window, I beheld two magpies soaring by, their chirping echoing the same as it did in years past. It dawned on me that the confines we once believed to be impenetrable were not so formidable after all. With unwavering resolve, we shall ultimately grasp the freedom we have long yearned for. The end of the text. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and liking to support. Until we meet again in the next story.